there's one man who can help, if there's one man who can help, it's the man coming in here right now.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Fullmetal Alchemist fan guide for the 2003 anime series on Fullmetal Fridays. So that's going to be roughly 52 episodes of Fullmetal Alchemist if we include the movie for roughly about 52 weeks of the year. So I skip a couple weeks here and there, but roughly it kind of equates to it. All part of a podcast made Fullmetal, roughly releasing these every Friday, every other Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with a few breaks here and there. Sometimes I have to record a couple of episodes or synopses of a couple episodes in these recordings to catch up for things. But this time, we're going to just be focusing on one episode because I'm trying to upload tonight and I wanted to catch up, and I didn't have enough time to watch all the rest of them while meeting the 9 o'clock deadline. So, anyway, today we're going to be talking about episode 41, Holy Mother, and we're actually getting to the point where we're getting to the point in the show where on my last watch through a couple years ago, I had gotten to about this point, and I think we've officially gone to the point where these last 10 episodes or so are not super fresh for me, so this was almost like watching this for the first time. I don't know if I've seen this episode or a lot of the ones after it since when I watched it way back in like 2005, 2006, 7, thereabouts. So this episode is Holy Mother, and I think for a lot of these, I might actually do these a little more on the cuff, just kind of really fresh reactions if I can, because I don't know, it just, like this episode, there was just a lot going on. So moving into the synopsis, basically, Scar's talking to Rose and explaining his plan of how he's going to basically take advantage of the void that was left after Cornello was overthrown by Ed, and he actually kind of chastises Ed and says, you know, because of the discord you caused and all the fighting, it's going to bring all this death and destruction. But Scar's using it to basically be a leader with Rose, who's kind of become this religious figure we mentioned before, to start another uprising. Now, obviously, this is playing into the homunculi's plans because they're using it so that he can create this giant philosopher's stone, and all the deaths will basically create the big philosopher's stone that they need to get what they want. But Scar's going along with it because he wants to use the power to get revenge on the military, and he's planning to just use the soldiers, but and theoretically save the people. But of course, Ed's not happy about it, and neither is Al. But he has Ed prisoner and decides to just kind of put him away. And Lyra actually lets him go, essentially. Well, actually, he doesn't let him go. She doesn't let him go. She does send a letter when Ed actually asks her to just get it to Mustang and let her know that, okay, he's actually alive, so he can't be that martyr and fall into their plans. It's actually Scar who lets him go later on, and that's one thing I really like about Scar. And I always liked Scar, but watching it again, he really is a great character, and he does go through a lot of growth, I think in both series, but in this one, I think it's really pronounced. Just the relationship he has with the Elric brothers is a really interesting one. But after apparently what happens and he finds out what's going on, Mustang decides that he's kind of hints to his friends and his subordinates that it might be time to start making some changes. Surprisingly, though, the Fuhrer says, you know, and we know he's a homunculi, he's Pride, he's actually saying he doesn't want to engage in fighting, which kind of confuses the other homunculi. Lust actually kind of defies against it and says, you know, our plan is basically to help Scar so that we can make the Philosopher's Stone so we can become human. That's what we want. But Pride's just, you know, saying we reveal clearly for the first time. It's been hinted at, but yes, you know, right after the official reveal of Pride being the Fuhrer, we find out that yes, definitely there is a master that is pulling their strings and manipulating them. So there is a mastermind, right? And Lust is openly defying this and leaves. And there's a great moment I really liked. There's a lot of great little moments in this episode, but she says, you know, she calls Pride a traitor, and she leaves, and she asks Gluttony to come with her, and they've been partners this whole time. They've been like kind of at the forefront of all the issues, them and Envy, really. They're like they kind of have been like the main villain stand-ins, the face of villainy since the beginning of the show. They've been inseparable, but Gluttony, who's incredibly loyal to Lust, it says that he wants to come with her, but he's afraid. So Gluttony is really afraid of whoever controls them. It's a great little moment. We don't really see anything shake that loyalty to lust. So that's a really interesting dynamic for Gluttony, which we don't get a lot of. But I think he's a good character too. I mean, he's iconic as well. Even someone as simple as Gluttony. But yes, meanwhile, there's a lot of things going on afterwards. So the fighting does continue. Kimberly actually, of course, was sent in by Archer, who's mad about what the Fear is saying. He's going there destroying things, and he actually has a face-off with Scar. He's bringing in his chimeras. They look more like animals, but they're talking kind of like people. And that fighting begins, and Kimberly and Scar have their moment. Al tries to intervene and stop them. But this one that shocked me, Scar just basically blows a hole through Kimberly's chest. And that was like a whoa moment. I was really literally going whoa as I was watching it. Like, really surprised me. I forgot about that. And that was right after Kimberly had actually gotten hold of Scar's arm, was going to turn him into a bomb. And every time he tried to use these stones, the red stones that he's using to enhance his power, of course, Scar keeps absorbing it into his arm, which is becoming this construct of alchemical power. So he's continuing to get more powerful. And Al, at the last minute, though, is grabbed by Kimberly, and he turns him into a bomb. And so that's going to be where we kind of leave off with that right there. Oh, no, like that's the stinger. Meanwhile, Scar told Ed to get the people out, and he's actually taking Rose and Lyra underground to lead them away. And then, of course, Wrath and Sloth show up. And so Wrath is, attacking Ed, about to kill him. And he's saying he doesn't really have the same weakness as the other homunculi because he was made from a whole body, so he doesn't have a body to be weak. He just has, he's almost kind of the actual creature from within the gate, with the exception of Ed's limbs. So it's really creepy. And he has that desire to be human because he could literally take it from him. So Wrath is pretty creepy. He's fighting, and of course Sloth shows up and reveals clearly that it's their mother, which I guess he never looked directly at her before, which he didn't. But even so, it's like all she has to do is say it, look at her directly, and then it hits him finally. And so he's basically stunned at that point. So then there's Wrath is about to kill him, take advantage of that. But Rose, seeing this, actually does the call back. And of course, you've got I think this series is actually rather well written, considering how off the cuff it was to divert from the manga, which was, I guess, incomplete at the time, right? As we know. So there are still these little hints of, Rose was set up at the beginning, and it's kind of it's going to be ending where it began, and she uses those lines, right, that Ed told her early on in the series, get up and move forward, and that actually snaps him out of it because Wrath turns on her, is going to kill her and the baby, and that's the cutoff for what's going to happen. Can Ed save her in time? I think we might know how that works out, but still, there's a lot going on there. Like I said, there was just like plot beat after plot beat after plot beat, and just these big dramatic moments. I would argue for pacing sense, it was a good episode, but it was almost too much. I was kind of, let's slow down a little. Like, I know for as much as the pacing has been mostly kind of a slow burn up until recently, like this episode was just all kinds of stuff thrown at us. So it was pretty good. I will admit though, I do like Lyra being there, but it's kind of like, she has much more interaction with Ed as an ally. And I just kept thinking, all right, so I guess if I was going to be writing the show, it seemed like something I might have done from my own writing or from D&D or something. It's a move. I'm pretty good at sort of BSing things on the fly, I guess, and making them kind of work okay a lot of the time, I've been told. And I'm just thinking, oh yeah, I remember that young alchemist they met like 1 or 2 episodes early in the series. Didn't seem like a main character. Oh yeah, she'll be a main part of it and might be, even bigger later on. And it's like she's an interesting character. And there's just like this subtle difference to her, which I think is really interesting. But I will admit it does stick out a little bit to me. Like it seems like at first it seemed kind of natural, but the more I think about it, I'm like, why her? And of course, I think it does make more sense later on, but it is interesting. So seeing it this way was pretty good. Let's see, moving on to just my overall feelings for it. I think it just had a lot of great plot moments, A lot of emotional moments. Really, the fight between Scar and Kimberly was really good. Kimberly gives his little spiel about how he thinks that human lives are basically worthless, and he just thinks of them as their components. So it's another dark side of alchemy. But Al gets his little stinger in there, and I just love all the subtle little lines, like about gluttony, saying he's afraid, and Ed making a comment about Lyra's perfume, and just lots of little things like that throughout this. I enjoyed a lot of the little exchanges in this episode. So it was pretty good stuff. Like I said, I think it might have been a bit too crowded, but mostly with good things. I'd probably give this one about an 8. Yeah, so those were some of my favorite Full Metal moments, and overall I'd say a score of about an 8. But very, very good. I really enjoyed this one quite a bit. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this one, but I'm excited because watching these again, I think it'll be like watching them for the first time, really in a long time, a lot of these episodes. So yeah, let me know in the comments your thoughts on this one, any expectations about future things, questions, things I might have missed, observations. I love to hear them. I try to respond back when I can. I appreciate all the support. And yeah, we're trying to keep this roughly on schedule. So let's see if we can hopefully finish this up by mid-January, and then I'll probably take a little bit longer, maybe mixing up how I do the last couple episodes. Maybe who knows what I'll do. But yeah, definitely going to take a little longer looking at that movie because it's been a while, and I know it's a bit divisive. So we'll see. But in the meantime, we'll watch a few more episodes. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Stay magical.